Yo, what's up, y'all? Peace out there, fam. This is Dr. Craig Waleed, and you're listening to Prison to Promise, where we highlight stories of transformation after incarceration. You heard me? Today I'm joined by the good brother Donald Hinton. He's an entrepreneur, author, and founder of Second Chance LLC. His journey from prison to building a thriving real estate business is nothing short of inspiring. Word bond. We discuss what sparked his change behind bars, how he faced reentry challenges, and why real estate became his tool for freedom, not just for himself, but for others. So, tune in, check out this conversation. You don't want to miss it between me and the good brother Donald Hinton. Now, let's go.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Out of respect for your time, I'm sure you're probably quite busy. So let's just rock on. And so, again, thank you for joining me here, man, for the Prison to Promise podcast. I'm not sure if you listened to any of the episodes, but essentially what I try to do is capture stories to inspire other people, capture the stories of those of us who've been impacted by the criminal legal system, particularly those of us who've done time, family members of those of us who've done time, with hopes of sharing their stories with other people who are grappling with the criminal legal system so that folks can eventually find their way out and, you know, have some hope. And that comes from my own experience of being formerly incarcerated, where I met so many people who were in and out of prison, you know, most of their lives, from group homes, institutions, to other types of congregate living. And I was thinking, I don't want this to be my reality. So how can I break this cycle? So I came up with, you know, a plan, and I've been out of prison for like going on 28 years. And so I want other people to hear various ways that people have found their way out of prison. And so without further ado, man, I'm going to ask that perhaps you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about where you come from and what led to your incarceration.
Okay. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. My name is Donald Hinton. I was born in 1988 in a small town in Illinois, close to East St. Louis and things like that, down south. And basically, I grew up without a father. The streets raised me, and I ended up doing the same thing that everybody else listening to the rappers is doing, selling drugs and out here just living that lifestyle. So that's what eventually led to my incarceration. So I ended up doing 8 years because of it.
Wow. Yeah, I feel that 8 years. I had a split bid in New York back in the 90s. I had a 4 to 12 and I did 8 on it. That 8 ain't nothing light, man. You know, so I feel you, and it could definitely change you. But, you know, you talked about being shaped by the streets, not having the proper guidance, lack of a father, like so many of us who've been in prison, you know, lack of a father, lack of a good father role model, et cetera, et cetera. And we find ourselves locked up, drugs and violence and all this other stuff. But what was the turning point for you while you were incarcerated? What made you say, okay, I got to do something different? And how did you begin doing it?
That's a good question. So while I was locked up, about 3 years into my bid, my son came to visit me, and you know, he had came to. I did state and federal time, so I did 2 years in the state, and that was right around the corner from where he stayed. So they visit me like every week, every 2 weeks. So it wasn't the first visit, but the feds eventually shipped me to Oxford, Wisconsin, and he came to visit me there, and that was the day that changed my life, because that was the same exact prison that I visited my dad at. So my dad, he did 20 years in the feds, and Oxford was where we went to go visit him. So by my son visiting me in the same exact visiting room that I visited my dad at, that did something to me, man. So I broke down. That was the first time I cried since I've been in prison, you know, and it changed me. So when I got back to my cell, I put down the James Pattersons, got away from the TV, and just started educating myself. So yeah, that was the day that changed my life around.
Yeah, that's heavy, man. That strikes emotion in me, make me want to cry right now just thinking about it. Just how that cycle sometimes never gets broken. And it makes me think about, like, when I was incarcerated, my brother used to bring one of his younger sons to see me. And once his son got in trouble and he told his dad something like, well, that's okay, I can go stay with my uncle. And from that point, he stopped bringing them. You know, and I was like, wow, man, we have no idea how these experiences shape the minds of our children. That's heavy, bro.
Yeah.
Wow. So you talked about educating yourself, and that's interesting. I hear that word educate used a lot. And so if you could you talk about what you did to educate yourself and what that looked like?
Education is very important, man. I'm gonna say that right now. Like, that's the reason. That's the reason you see these guys out here doing what they doing. That's the reason why a lot of us is in the position that we in, because of education. So education for me looked at like every possible book I could read in psychology, math, investing, mindset, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. That's putting different stuff in your mind. So education, I like to think of it as putting stuff in your head, right? So just think about it. You walking around the yard with those earbuds in, listening to the hottest rapper out, telling you get high, get drunk, go get that girl and this girl. That's what you listening to all day. That's what you putting into your head. So then you start chanting it. That's what you chanting, and words create our reality. So if you saying this stuff out loud, that's what your reality is about to be. So books is the same way. So if you putting things in your head like invest in a 4K, learn about the stock market, now that's the stuff you chant. And whenever you start chanting that stuff, that's your reality. You know what I mean? So I was a hustler by nature, right? So that's what I did since I was 14 years old. So I started a store when I got to prison. So I was the store man. So I would just sit in my store and read my books, and then I worked at Unicor also. So during the day I would work Unicor. During the night I would run that store and read, you know. So anything that I can get my hands on that was not a Western, a hood novel, anything that could actually educate me. That's what I read. Yeah. That was an education.
Outstanding. And so just real quick, that store, I'm thinking that was like the 2-for-1, the 3-for-1 jump offs.
Yeah.
You know, everybody run that in prison. I met a guy who was doing that, and somebody played him or tried to play him. And so, you know, the rules of the penitentiary, you know, you got to strike. And so he struck this dude and ended up killing him. And now he's in prison in North Carolina because somebody violated his store rules. And you know, he's in there for life or facing the death penalty or something, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a very precarious place to be in, but clearly, you know, you made it out, so you're on the right side. But
yeah.
What really stands out to me, though, is, you know, this thing that you talked about, putting stuff in your head. And it's about what we put in our head and how words become reality. As a man thinks, so is he. And so that's interesting how you knew to shape your mind a certain way. But how did you know that? Like, how did you know, okay, I got to put something new in my head?
Because it's like, if you look at your living situation, if you look at the hood, if you look at the hood, everybody in there is doing the same exact thing, right? So they not doing nothing different. So it's a fishbowl. It's like a fishbowl. Like, everybody is doing the exact same thing, right? And if you look at it like a peephole, that's all you can see. So what made me understand that I need to do something different is I saw something different. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, when you in the state penitentiary, you seeing those guys that stuck up the liquor store, you seeing those petty drug dealers, you seeing all of those guys. And that's who I seen for my first 2 years. But then when you go to the feds, you seeing in that white collar criminal who embezzled $1 million, right? You seeing that banker who did something that doctor, people from different countries. So you seeing a whole different side of the world. So as I referred to that peephole, my peephole got bigger and I started seeing reality different, right? So if you don't see it, if you don't see a black millionaire like telling you, hey man, it's easy, just do this and this. If you don't see that, you just gonna always think it's not for you. You're gonna think it's for that white man in the suit or whoever it may be. You know what I mean? You're not gonna think it's for you. So by me seeing these guys that's actually really doing something in the world, it made me realize that I could do something.
So if you see it, you can believe it and you can be it.
Yeah.
That's the same reason why I do the podcast, in a sense, so people can hear people like you, hear people like me, and say, well, shit, man, I've been locked up. I've been a hustler all my life. I come from a fatherless background. I've been, addicted. My parents, this, that, and the third. But, oh, shit, look at these dudes. They don't flip the script. If they could do it, hell yeah, I could do it. Your story kind of resonates with me 100% so far, because that was pretty much my experience too. You know, I didn't do Fed time, but I started seeing the world bigger. I think I had exposure to it at an early age, but I had scales over my eyes, so to speak, you know. But I think the pain of prison allowed me to realize I'm not seeing clearly, and allowed me to pull those scales off. And they unplugged my ears, you know, and I started learning more because the world became bigger, and I began to realize I can do a whole lot of shit with my life other than just be a nigga and sit in prison.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And we don't know, like, we don't understand it. Nobody ever taught us this. So, you know, that's why it's important what you doing, man. You just letting them know it's a different route, man. We applaud you for that.
Thank you, brother. And I applaud you. And so, you know, I know that you started the Second Chance LLC. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how your business model maybe integrates housing and employment and education?
Okay. So something that I didn't tell you in this podcast was I saved $10,000 when I was in prison, right? So when I got out, I came to a city where I didn't know nobody, and I studied all of this stuff. So I studied real estate, stock market, and all of this stuff. So when I got out, the only person I knew was my landlord. So I asked him if he had a property he wanted to sell, and he sold me a duplex. So I lived in one and my tenant paid the other. I bought it 4 months out of prison just because of my education. I had $10,000, yeah, but if I didn't have that education, that $10,000 would have probably went to go get me another pack. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
fooling his money will soon depart.
Yeah. So I learned something different, got me a piece of real estate, and then that helped me save, and I got another one and another one, and now I'm on my 15th property in 5 years.
Hey, man, can a brother get a loan, man? Can a brother get a loan?
I can do you something better. I'm going to teach you exactly what I did, and
Right
then
on.
you can go and do it too, you know?
Right on.
So yeah, man, with Second Chance, my vision is I got the properties, right?
Yeah.
So my vision is to get these guys that's coming out of prison and give them a place to live. But also, all of my properties need work. So now I can give them a place to work, right? I just had to cut down a tree the other day, so I can give them a job to do, right? And then on top of that, I wrote a book. It's called From Prison to Properties. And it's the basic financial literacy of how to get a property. So now I can teach these guys these things also. So now I'm giving them a place to live, teaching them what they need to know, and giving them some extra income so that they can survive. You know what I mean? So that's what Second Chance is all about. And it's not perfect, but it's what my mission is. So as long as I keep working on it, it's going to get better.
That's right. As long as you keep working on it, because nothing never is perfect, but we can continue to refine it and revise it. Yeah, that's dope. So a couple things. One is, how can people find your book?
My book is on Amazon, From Prison to Properties. And also, if they add me on social media, any platform, you can look up Donald Hinton. And that's where I am. I'm teaching this stuff. I'm showing them that it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Anybody can do it. So all social media platforms, you can reach out to me. And then on Amazon is where the book is.
Right on. That's dope. That's dope, Donald. So, like, why you want to teach dudes who are coming out of prison? Why you want to house them? Why not try to house college students and teach kids and younger people who ain't never been to prison? Why you want to mess with these hard noses?
Because somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do it. You know, I won't lie. Like, I got some Section 8 houses for the single mothers that's going through this stuff, but I feel like it's just so much help out here for them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not a lot of help for people like us coming out, you know? So it's crazy because, like, we know that some of them gonna mess up. These guys, they gonna get out and mess up, you know? And I'm gonna take losses because of it. I done took some losses because of it, but I feel like out of every 10 is one that I can help. And if I can help that one, you know, I feel like I did my job, because whenever I got out of prison, somebody gave me a chance, gave me that second chance, and I ran with it, you know? So as long as I can give a person a second chance, somebody gonna run with it and look back like, dude changed my life. He helped me like a mug. You know what I mean? So I got Section 8 properties, but it's just too much help out here for people like that. And it's not enough help for people like us. That's where I'm gonna invest in that area.
Right on. That's dope, man. Last night I was on a call and there was a sister. She's formerly incarcerated. Most of my social groups deal with people who are formerly incarcerated. And this sister, she's from Detroit. And she did a gang of time, but she was talking about how there's over like 700 plus laws or mandates in Detroit alone to prevent formerly incarcerated people from getting housing. Just housing, bro. I think about how that might be across the country. What kind of laws and mandates and policies are in place to keep those of us who've been incarcerated from moving forward, be it from housing, school, to loans, to, anything that's going to help us get a leg up,
Yeah.
So you're applauded, man, for that. You're definitely applauded for that. Like, speaking about real estate, man, what do you think are some of the first steps somebody with a criminal record should take if they want to get into real estate investing?
That's a great question. So I also have a course that I put out from Prison to Properties, and it's on Udemy, where I'm going through all of this stuff. But the first step you got to do is finding a deal. The finding the deal part is the biggest part. The money, people think you need the money. The money is not the biggest part. That's actually the last step.
Okay.
The first step is finding the deal. And how do you find the deal? If you not, okay, just think about it like this. I tell people, like, you heard somebody say they got a deal, but they were speaking Chinese to you, so you didn't pick up on that deal, right? Somebody said my grandma's selling her house, and you was like, oh yeah, the Bears play tonight, or you know what I mean? Like, somebody said that to you and they were speaking Chinese. So understanding how to find the deal is listening to people whenever they say this house is for sale, and then going online to look up the house. That's how you find the deal. If you go to the county assessor website, that's the biggest hack that I done found. And it's going to tell you how much that property is appraised at. It's going to tell you who owns the property and what's wrong with the property. So that's how you find the deal. And then the next step of the deal is going to be contacting the people that own it or something like that and getting it under contract. So a different kind of contracts. Once you get the education, you will know the different type of contracts. So the contract I use, I couldn't go in a bank and get the money because I was 4 months out of prison, right? So it's different contracts, lease with an option to purchase, seller financing, all of these rental agreements and stuff like that. Like, it's different contracts. So first you find a deal, second you get it under contract, and then third you're gonna go find the money. So it's hard money lenders out here. If you got a good enough deal, they'll give you the money. You got your friends and your family who are, if it's a good enough deal, they'll give you the money if you know what you're talking about. And then you got the banks and stuff like that. So those are the 3 steps I tell people. Find the deal, lock in the deal, and then go find the money.
Okay. Yeah. And we know that home ownership is one of the leading ways of wealth building in America. And it's interesting that we're talking about real estate right now because I'm reading this book called The Color of Law.
Okay. And
this book talks about housing discrimination in the United States of America since World War I, where Black folks were and continue to be discriminated against for living in certain areas. Mortgages, not allowed to get mortgages. If we did get mortgages, they were contract mortgages, where we could get evicted real quick and easy, and all these other things. It's just interesting and it's timely that we're having this conversation. But one of the other things I'm thinking about is like coming out of prison, man. Like, how long have you been out of prison, for one?
I've been out 5 years now.
Right on. So you done broke that recidivism line, because they say within 5 years people go back.
And that's crazy because I went back. Went back. Yeah, I messed up. I messed up. I caught a DUI like whenever I was a year out. Yeah, I went back. I almost did another 7 years because it was my 4th DUI. I was an alcoholic before I went to prison. So I used to do dumb stuff, and I haven't been back since. And I recently, like 2 months ago, just got off probation. Right. It's going, and I'm back focused. And yeah, man, that recidivism is real.
Man, I'm amazed by your story because, again, there's so many parallels to mine, mine to yours. Like I had 4 years on parole. I did 3 years. Easy. Started drinking. Got a DUI. Got sent back for like 6 months. I had like a year left on paper. When I got out, I went back in. It was like the end of 99. I got out. It was 2000. And then I got off paper in early 2001.
Okay.
But all because of the juice, doing stupid shit.
The double right there, man.
I'm trying to tell you, man.
It'll have you doing some stuff, man. But, like, Like me, man, I luckily I got out of that stage, and the judge seen what I was doing, and she let me off a year and a half early.
Nice, nice.
I wasn't supposed to be off till next year, but here I am. Yeah.
You're moving in the direction of what's known as desistance, you know, where we
I never heard that word. What's that?
desistance. It's when we begin to turn away from criminal behavior and we begin to gain a new identity for ourselves that's antithetical to the identity that landed us in prison. So now I no longer see myself as, say, an alcoholic or a D-boy or whatever, but you know, I see myself as a grown-ass man, as a real estate investor, as an educator. You know, I start to identify with, you know, pro-social behaviors instead of negative behaviors. But it's like resistance, but it's desistance. So it's just like moving away from the criminal identity. And that's something that happens gradually, and it typically happens as we mature. And so it's just wonderful to hear you talk about that. And so coming out of prison, man, you've been out for a pound now, Whole Fever. How did you overcome the stigma of having a criminal record, man, especially entering the business world?
Oh, that's a great question, and I embrace it.
Yeah.
I walk in the door and say, hey, my name is Donald. 5 years ago, I was released from prison. Now I own 15 properties. I know guys that's successful since they've been out of prison, and they don't even mention that they've been to prison, right? It's some guys you be like, we get to talking, we doing business, and then we get to talking. He was like, yeah, I did 5 years. And I would have never guessed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, people, like you said, that stigma, they don't want that on them. But I didn't brand it myself all the way around it. I just got out of prison, and now I'm doing things that most people won't do. Like, so I lead with that. I lead with, yeah, man, I did 8 years. So that's how I break it. Like, yeah, man, lead with it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Like, that's who I was.
That's right.
I didn't desist it now. Is that the right word?
That's right. Desist. Yeah, I'm in desist.
Yeah.
I'm with you with that. Let's lead with that. And so let's show and prove to the world that we not the boogeyman. You know, the brothers and sisters who are coming up thinking that they trapped in a cycle, that, yeah, you can break it. You know, you know, get this book, you know, Prison to Property, get this other book, Prison to Promise, you know, get this other book. You know, there's so many brothers and sisters out there breaking the cycles.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. How about this, bro? You know, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, man, before prison, like, what would you tell yourself, man? What would you say?
I tell them that it's a different way. Like, you ain't getting no money, man. You can really get some money. Or I tell him, like, think about 5 years from now. Think about 10 years from now. Think about it. Yeah. Sit down and think. Yeah. You know what I mean? I encourage him to think, read, do something. But what you're doing right now is stupid. It's dumb. You know, so I would just tell him a different way. If you listen, you listen. Yeah. If you don't, you don't. Yeah. But I did my job and told him.
Yeah. And that makes me think about the chess philosophy, you know. In the penitentiary, I learned chess. I wasn't that good at it, but I appreciated the concept of it so much that I have a chess king and a chess queen tattooed on each of my biceps. And that symbolizes the importance of thinking, but not just thinking on my current square where I stand, but also thinking 2, 3, 4 moves out. You know, just like on the chessboard, we're always thinking about the what ifs and the maybes. And so we're not just concentrating on where our feet are or where our piece is held. We're always just strategizing. So I really dig that, you know, think positively. So if there was something that you would tell somebody listening who feels stuck or hopeless after incarceration, what would you tell them?
That's not the destination. That's not the destination. That's just the obstacle. Regroup, focus, pivot if you got to. It's not over. It's just beginning.
Yeah. I like to think of it as just part of the curriculum. This is part of the curriculum, you know, and I have to learn through this. Yeah, I'm not stuck here. I'm just moving through it. I'm learning some lessons, and when I get on the other side, I'm a bit more educated. You know, a bit more informed. So when I have good information, I can make good decisions. When I don't have good information, I probably won't make good decisions. So right on, man. I think maybe I got like maybe 1 or 2 last questions for you, man. And one is, what changes, man, would you like to see in how society approaches reentry and second chances for that?
Like The reason I do it is like the education part. I feel like it's so important. So the changes would be like, don't make. I was reading this book called Cracking the Learning Code. And basically it was just saying how we learn and stuff. So it's like you pouring water into this glass, but then it's overfilling, and you know, you're not learning, you're not retaining this stuff. You know what I mean? So the way that we teaching, make them sit in the classroom, do these programs, that's not how you teach. You teach people by them actually experiencing something. Like whenever I teach my clients to learn how to do real estate, I'm actually having them call the people and talk to them.
Yeah.
I'm not giving them no theories on if they say this, then say this. No, call them right now and then mess up. You know what I mean? So whenever we doing like these programs and trying to educate, it need to be more hands-on where they actually doing the things so they can learn something new. I can't just tell you about real estate. I gotta have you do it. So some of these programs that I want to see is actually implementation of it. Like, well, if you get into a trucking course, you actually in the truck driving. You know what I mean? So
right.
Not just theories and doing tests and stuff like that. Nah, get out there and then do it. You know, so I want to see more hands-on stuff.
Yeah, action based. Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate that. And took a moment to ponder your journey from as early as you can, or as early back or far back as you want to go, to right now in your life. If you ponder that just for a moment, how would you capture your journey in a catchphrase or a title?
The inspiration. That's all I can think of, because there's been so many ups and downs and, you know, like horrible stuff, you know, so I'm still here. So that's inspiring. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in the position I want to be in, but I still got a smile on my face. You know what I mean? So it can get worse, but it's going to keep going on no matter what. So It's inspiration.
Right on. I appreciate that. And you say it can get worse, but it has been much worse at some point too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That keep a head going.
That make me smile even more, because I remember I was messed up. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man.
I definitely feel it, man. And so finally, bro, well, two last things. One is there anything that in our last few minutes, anything that you want to share that we didn't touch on in our last 5 minutes?
Nah, just basically like reach out to me, man. If you got questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for that, to educate you. Telling my story is good, but I want to give you the actual information. You need the contract that you need to take to the seller. I got the contract for you. Reach out to me. I'll give it to you, tell you what to say. You know, you wanna learn this stuff in depth? Reach out to me. That's what I'm here for.
So essentially, you down to put heads onto game.
That's my mission. Right. Let me see how many people I can make go from prison to property. It took me 4 months. So let me see if I can get you one quicker.
Right on. That would be beautiful, man. And so finally, bro, once again, how can people reach you if they want to get down?
Donald Hinton on Facebook mostly, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My course is on Udemy and my book is on Amazon.
This has been dope, man. I can't wait to edit this and get it out to the public. Thank you for your time, brother.
No problem, man. I appreciate you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
All right, brother. You have a great day.
Too, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Peace.